there, my name's Elizabeth Court. I'm with Kitsap County Department of Community Development. And today on Around Kitsap, it's my pleasure to introduce Fire Marshal David Lyman.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm so glad we can talk about some of these very, very important issues.
Yeah, I'm glad you invited me. Thank you.
So when we talk about fire safety, I want to get right into the issue of residents and homeowners. A lot of people, including myself, live in older homes. What are some of the things we need to think about when we're living in older homes and our day-to-day lives, as well as maybe remodeling older homes?
Well, there's a lot of things that can cause fires in homes, and we have two different kinds of homes. We call them the legacy homes, which is the ones that are built pretty much before the early 70s. And we have quite a few of those that are left in our community. And then we have our modern homes that are made of different types of products than the old ones used to be. With our old homes, we used to make those out of dimensional lumber. You know, we had 2x12s and 2x10s, and we had 2x6s for rafters. And now we make those homes out of trusses. We make them out of oriented strand board instead of plywood. And the biggest thing we do is we fill those homes full of synthetic materials. We have vinyls, we have plastics, we have nylon carpets and acrylic carpets, and we have formica and countertops. So we're putting a tremendously greater fire load in the homes that we have today versus the ones that we had perhaps when I was a kid, where you had a overstuffed couch that was made of wood and cotton. You had some hardwood floors. You may have had some carpets or rugs that were natural materials like wood. So the fires that we get in our homes for firefighters are very different than they were before. And we're finding that some of the newer homes just aren't as resilient to fire as our legacy homes. So it depends on what you put in your house is going to affect your fire load a lot.
It's really interesting when you talk about that. I was thinking back of the home I grew up in, my grandparents' home, as well as where I live today, and everything you said just certainly fits just like that. So when you have this older home or you have a newer home, or either one, and it's filled with these types of more modern and synthetic, which I'm presuming are more flammable items, what are some of the checklist types of things you could go through to try and decrease the risk of fire or improve fire safety in the home? Sure.
Our older homes, one of the biggest problems that we have with those homes is that they were probably constructed, certainly, but the wiring in the mechanical systems in there are older. You may have an electrical service panel that was meant for 100 amps. Today, you know, the minimum that you get in homes are 200 amp panels. You'll have lots of times, and I know I witnessed this, and a lot of other people do, is if you plug in the toaster while the microwave is running in your kitchen, you lose the power and you have to go out and trip that breaker again. So it's pretty common to get overloaded circuits in your electrical systems in older homes, ones where the electrical system hasn't been upgraded to today's standards. The heating systems that we have in our older homes, there's still a lot of oil furnaces that are out, around, and available. They aren't as efficient, and when they aren't maintained properly, and they really do take some maintenance. They're not like our virtually zero emission gas furnaces and stuff that we have today. It's become problematic if you don't maintain your old heating systems. Very few homes anymore install baseboard heaters because they just aren't efficient for us. But with some regularity, we'll find where those are malfunctioning, where, you just forget they're back there behind the couch, and pretty soon, maybe the Afghan that's on the back of your couch falls down behind there. We have fires with those. The Cadet type wall heaters, and I just say Cadet because that was a name brand that there was some problem with a while ago, but some of the forced air wall heaters that we have, in the summertime you don't pay attention to them because you don't use them. And the stuff that you sat in front of that in the summer is still there when the thermostat finally goes on and those things turn on in the fall. So we have that. We have a lot of older homes had solid fuel appliances. They had fireplaces that were really used as fireplaces. And people will put a wood stove insert in there, and they don't rebuild that fireplace. You may have, in a really old home, you may have had a brick chimney in the kitchen that at one time had a wood cook stove or something like that.
I want to get back to the issue of the wood stoves and so forth, but when we're on electricity, do we have to worry about lightning strikes anymore? Is that just something from the old days? I remember a story of one of my aunt's house got hit by lightning and there was a fire. What about lightning?
We don't have much lightning in the Pacific Northwest. very rarely we'll have thunderstorms that will roll through. Every summer you'll hear a little thunder and get a few cracks of lightning, but we don't require the protection in our homes that other places in the South and the Midwest do, where you have lightning rods and things like that. But if a lightning storm is coming, we do once in a while get homes that are hit with lightning, and that sends an immediate surge of electricity through anything that will conduct it in your house. So if the lightning storm's coming, we always recommend folks, turn off the appliances, turn off your television, turn off your stove, turn off anything that you don't need until that passes over. Because if it's using it, lots of times we'll have things explode, things malfunction, things will just go bad on you. But we don't require extra protection for lightning here.
Okay, so now let's talk about the wood stove issue specifically and the whole idea of the power outage, because I know we have those. I know we have those very frequently. So the power goes out. The things that I think about are, well, a wood stove. We heat with wood when the power goes out. Then there's the issue of candles and then so forth. So what are some things we need to be prepared for to protect ourselves from fire when the power goes out?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thing that we see most of the time is when you have a long storm, particularly if the power's out more than just a couple of hours, is everything that was on in the house before the power went out is still on when it comes back up. So for instance, let's say you're trying to cook some supper at night and you've got an electric stove top and the power goes out. Almost every time we have a prolonged usage, we will have incidents where whatever they're cooking is still there. Or maybe they went and got some takeout somewhere. Or they got some groceries. Or they did some cleaning and they set stuff on top of the stove and the burner's still on. Any type of appliance like that. So what we recommend, and the power company will appreciate it too, is go ahead and turn off those appliances. If electricity goes out, unless you have a generator with the cutoff switches, you're not going to be able to use it. Your water heater isn't going to make hot water for you. Turn off the appliances that you can. Turn off your television. Turn off the lights. You're going to want to leave one or two on so when it comes back. Make sure that stove is off. And if you have when you need lights when the power goes out, and we don't recommend candles because
drat.
Drat, yeah.
Okay, no candles. Okay.
Well, you can if you go in. There's a lot of them that you can get that are the battery operated LED lights, the little tea lights. You can even get the taller candles, and they look really good, and they put out some ambiance. It's on there, but. People don't know how to use candles safely. Our grandparents probably did. There's a lot more candles that were around, but today they just don't. They're not used to them. They're neglected. You might take one in a room and leave it there. We see children that will have them in their bedrooms in case the lights goes out with matches, and they'll light it, then they'll leave. So you need to have a good flashlight available. Use those flashlights. And one thing that I use in my home is these headlamps that you can get. They'll fit around your head. And
like a coal miner or a climber or hiker or something? Okay.
They'll last forever. And you can get them for less than $10. And I've got them in just about every room, and probably half of my coats I have has headlamps in them. And they work really great. You can blind each other when you're looking for it. But you can get battery operated camping lights and things like that. So when the power goes off, too, a lot of people will start to use alternatives, try to find some alternative sources of heat. And you don't want to bring anything that's open flame into your house because it produces carbon monoxide, and that's deadly. We get some people that will actually try to cook on a little hibachi inside their house. They might bring it in. If you have a wood stove, that's great. You can use the wood stove if it's been properly installed, properly maintained. That's some good ambiance for you. A lot of people are installing natural gas and propane. A lot of folks have the pellet stoves that are in there.
So is that what we call the solid fuel?
Solid fuel appliances,
is that okay?
Yep, that's a pellet stove,
Okay.
that's a fireplace, that's a wood stove. You know, for a long time, one of the principal causes, or the principal cause in home fires was cooking. And we've seen a shift in that in our county. We've been, you know, educating folks and had programs to protect against home cooking. But we're seeing a shift into the solid fuel appliances. So that causes a problem when, you know, it's time to light the stove off and you haven't used it all summer again. You know, we recommend everybody get that stove checked and serviced by a licensed chimney sweep before you start using it in the fall. Or make sure you do it in the spring when you're done using it, but you should have that checked out every year.
So have your chimney looked at every year? Okay.
Yeah, get a chimney sweep to come out and examine your chimney. They have tools now that can run a video camera down there and find problems that you can't see. Make sure that the wood, whatever materials you use in there, is properly seasoned, because, you know, green wet wood makes a crummy fire, and it just fills your chimney up with creosote that can cause chimney fires.
I had a situation where I was at my parents' home and there was this, what I thought was a little wicker basket. And so it was broken and it was in the trash, and I thought, well, I'm starting a fire, I'll just use this little natural wicker basket. Well, it turned out it was plastic, but I couldn't tell. And pretty soon I thought there was an airplane in my house because there a chimney fire had started.
Sounds like a jet engine when they take off.
Yes, so that was pretty scary. So we had to call. But
well, if that does happen again, what we want you to do is close your wood stove, close the dampers on it, call 911.
Okay.
We don't want you to do anything with that wood stove, because, you know, we'll get there and take care of it properly for you. But if you open those, if you got you know, lots of times people will have an airtight wood stove, and if you're getting enough in there for it to be howling like a jet engine, you got too much air. And if you open the doors of that stove to try to do something, you'll make it even worse. You'll just introduce even more air in there. So if you do have a wood stove fire, close those doors, close all the intake dampers. Don't close the exhaust damper. That's usually the one that's on the top. You might have an exhaust damper. But close those dampers down, call 911, and fire department will get there and take care of it. Okay,
well, that's good. Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit about if a person is installing a new wood stove. I know I recall seeing some issues about permits. Could you talk about how that works?
Well, to install a wood stove requires a mechanical permit from the county, and we've made it really easy to get those. You can get those over the counter. You know, the cost is, you know, less than a couple $100. It's a little over $100 to get one of those stoves. And every wood stove that's installed in Washington State has to be certified for the emissions that they put out for the clean air.
Okay.
So you have to have a certified wood stove, and almost every stove is a little bit different as far as what the manufacturer requires. So come in and get your permit. Make sure you've got a certified wood stove. Make sure that you install it according to the manufacturer's recommendations, including your chimney, and then have it inspected. Okay. And the last thing to do is make for sure you tell your insurance company that you've installed a solid fuel appliance. Because my insurance companies, some of them are installing specific riders that say, if you install this device and you don't get it permitted and inspected and you have a fire, you could be on your own.
You're out of luck.
Yeah, you could be out of luck. So a lot of your insurance companies are requiring prior notice, and they're requiring proof that you got it inspected and installed. It's really that big of a problem for us. A lot of damage is caused by those.
All right, if they're okay.
Yeah.
Well, now, we've talked about things that cause these issues and these fire dangers in the home, but what about some of the preventative things? I know that smoke alarms have been around since I was a kid, and now there's the new CO monitors. So can you talk a little bit about how those can be best used in the home to protect our families and ourselves?
Boy, I sure can. And one thing that I want to bring out to everybody is nobody in this county should go to sleep tonight in a building that doesn't have working smoke alarms. They're cheap, they're readily available. In fact, if you call your local fire departments or if you call my office, many of us have smoke alarms that we can give you to hand out. And I brought just a couple of examples, if you will.
Great.
This first one is one that pretty much everybody sees. They're hanging up in your house. They look very much like the kind that are hardwired in your home, but these are battery operated.
That's what I have.
Yeah, a lot of folks have those. One of the problems that we have is smoke alarms first became available in the mid-'70s in homes, and they were a lot bigger. And we go into homes every day that still have those things, and they were made out of this kind of plastic, and it's yellow, and it looks like it was in a smoker's home. But they lose their sensitivity over time.
I see.
So after about 10 years, you don't know for sure whether they're working when they should be or when they aren't. So what I brought today is an example of a new smoke alarm, and it's a 10-year smoke alarm, and they come with these new batteries that are in here. We used to tell everybody, change your clock, change your battery. You don't need them anymore. So if you get some of these ultra lithium batteries, these lithium batteries are made specifically to use in appliances like this. They last 10 years. You put this in here, it's going to last 10 years. If it ever beeps, you take the whole thing down, you toss it, instead of worrying about just changing your battery. So if you don't have them, you need to have smoke alarms in every sleeping room. You need to have a smoke alarm in the hallways outside sleeping rooms, and you should have one on each level of your home. Now, people will sometimes put these in their kitchens. We don't recommend smoke alarms in kitchens because
with my cooking, they probably be going off on a regular basis.
Well, steam will set them off.
Okay.
And they will also decrease their sensitivity that's on them. But if you've got one and it keeps going off because it's outside the bathroom or near the kitchen, this is called an ionization detector. And you can replace it with a photoelectric detector. They cost more, but you can find them, Home Depot, Lowe's, most of your hardware stores will have them. And they have models that run off batteries too. They are more selective. So they're more sensitive to a smoldering type of fire, which is what we have more often at home. But nobody go to sleep tonight without one of these in your home. If you don't have them, contact your fire department. We'll see what we can do to get them. Replace the ones you've got. We're going to coming up to change your clock, change your battery. So it's a good time if your smoke alarms are approaching 10 years old. Just change the whole thing. Put them with a brand new. These are the ones that we have available. We got these through a grant. We've been trying to. Actually, we've installed in the last year over 3,800 of these in homes. But these are the 10-year long life. People always ask, what about if you have people that are hard of hearing in your home?
And older people, we have a lot of older people living in the county. So what do they do if they can't hear that beeping?
Well, that's a big problem for us because if you have hearing aids or some type of assistive device, or if you are, for the handicapped, perhaps can't hear at all, you may not hear that in time. So we have another product that's available. We've been installing some of these. And they are, it's a bedside fire alarm and clock for the hearing impaired. It serves as an alarm clock. It serves as a regular clock for you. It's got a battery backup. But what's really interesting about this is this comes, and here's the clock right here.
Okay,
it looks
but
like
I still can't hear it. So
you can't. And what this has is this device that will attach to it, and it's a bed vibrator. You could put this underneath your bed. You can put this underneath your pillow. And you're going to feel this shaking if it goes off. So some of the limitations are, we're doing the best we can to do this. And with the electronics, soon we'll be able to have smoke alarms on your ceiling that will also vibrate your bed, or they will flash your lights.
I see.
But these are fairly inexpensive. They can hook up there. You can use it as a regular alarm clock. And you can slip this underneath your pillow. You can slip it underneath a thin mattress and just see what it does. It's got testing features. The limitation on it, though, is that this is your smoke alarm. And if this goes off, if you're using one of these, you want to make for sure that you get up and get out because the smoke had to get down to this level for you instead of being up at the top. So that's going to be a little more sensitive to it, but if this goes off, you have less time than usual. But right now, it's the biggest bang for the buck that we can get for you. So.
Well, that's ingenious. And we have, 5 senses, so why not use... If one of them's impaired, why not use another sense? So those are good. Now, I have 2 more questions. One is about the CO.
Oh, carbon monoxide.
Monitor, yes.
Yeah.
And why is that? Why do we have that? And tell us about that.
Well, most of the people, when you expire in a fire, the reason that you can't get out is because you can't move.
Oh.
You're impaired in some way. Even if you don't die, you could be injured because you just didn't wake up and get out. And a lot of that is due to CO, carbon monoxide. Carbon's everywhere. And carbon monoxide is a byproduct of fire. It's incomplete combustion of fire.
Okay.
So it's a gas. You can't see it, you can't smell it, and it is about the same weight as air. It floats around in air, and it's a major killer for us. If you have solid fuel appliances, particularly, and there's some type of a malfunction, even if it's a gas furnace or an oil furnace or a wood stove, and you've got a hole in your heat exchanger, it can leak carbon monoxide into your house.
So was that when you were describing when the people would cook with the hibachi inside, the
Yeah.
same idea?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Charcoal.
Okay.
It's a smoldering fire. Charcoal puts out a lot of carbon monoxide. Smokers, if you smoke, you already have a base level of carbon monoxide in your bloodstream. So building codes now require that you put in carbon monoxide detectors, and people always ask where they should go. And you can put them anywhere. If you have wood stoves that are out in the front room, that's fine. You can put it out there. You can put it next to your bedroom because carbon monoxide circulates with air.
I see.
So there will be specific instructions for the manufacturer. So when you get one, and I didn't bring one to show you today, but there'll be an instruction sheet in the back. So follow those instructions for where to install those things.
Okay.
And if you don't have one today and you're going to go out and buy one, first off, it's most important if you have some type of a solid fuel appliance. If you're burning a fuel in your home, it's most important to get one. But everybody should have one in their home regardless.
Okay. Now the last question I have today is something that only happens a couple times a year, but we hear on 4th of July and then New Year's and various holidays, the Seahawks win or something, we hear a lot of fireworks.
Yeah.
And I can recall a lot of stories about fireworks and people losing fingers and so forth, but what about the actual fire danger from fireworks? And can you tell us some, if people are going to use these, some safety tips to help alleviate that risk of fire?
Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you're thinking about using fireworks, the only time in the county that you can set off fireworks here is on the 4th of July.
I see.
You can't do it for birthdays, you can't do it for Seahawks victories, you can't do it on New Year's. And so if you want to do that, have some type, we call it a public display, you can contact my office and see about how you might be able to do it. But we want you first off to leave fireworks to the professionals and go see a show. As a matter of fact, our County Chiefs Association helps sponsor every one of our public fireworks shows that we have in the summer. So we want you to go see that. If you're going to use them, only use those things that are legal for sale. Now everybody says, well, geez, look at this really hot firework that I got here, or look at this M80 or this M1000. Those aren't fireworks. Those are bombs. Those are illegal explosive devices. And we will always recommend that you go down, you buy them from your neighborhood seller, because we inspect those and we inspect the devices that they sell so that we know everything there is illegal. All firecrackers are illegal. Any type of a bottle rocket, of a skyrocket, is illegal. Anything that, you see them sometimes called cherry bombs, they're circular.
Oh yeah.
Big fire, those are illegal. So if you have to use them, only get them from legal sources.
So could someone call to find out what is legal? How would they be able to find that out?
You can find out, you could call my office, we can tell you what's legal and what isn't, and if you have a specific question about a device, that's fine. Now, if you go to one of our Indian reservations that we have here, they sell products that are for use on the reservation. They also sell products that you can take off of the tribal lands and use. But you never know for sure. So if you buy them up there, you can't bring any firecrackers, you can't bring any of the skyrockets, you can't bring any bottle rockets off.
Okay.
And if you are going to use those, they belong outside. We've had fires of people doing them in their garage because it's burning up, it's too wet outside. They should be used by adults. You should have clear space around any of those type of fireworks that you will use. You need to have some water extinguisher ready. And when they're done, make for sure that those, whatever device you had, the remains of it, are all the way out. We'll recommend douse it in a bucket of water before you put it in your garbage can, because we will have fires from people putting the spent debris in a garbage can that catches on fire in the side of the garage.
Wow. Well, this has been, David, so interesting. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that everyone watching can have gotten some great information about fire safety today. Thank you so much.
Super. Thanks for having me.